So many churches across the nation celebrate Easter week with such joys and celebrations and festivals and plays, but it's actually a time of great introspection and a time of great sadness, as Jesus knew what he was facing. The men and women that followed him did not, but he did. He knew. Like I said, when he was marching into Jerusalem, everybody else was singing and shouting joyfully. And he wept over the city. He was the only one crying at that party because he knew what was just ahead. There's a term, I don't know how many of you are gamblers. If you are, I need to get you all prayed up. I have never gambled. Well, a little bit. Every time I start my truck and get behind the wheel of it, it's a gamble.
I took a chance on this one.
But there's a term when guys are playing poker and stuff like that, when they get to a critical point. And the term is two words. It's called all in. They're to the critical point. They can't go backwards. Or they just, it's all or nothing. You put everything you have, everything you are into the pot, and then it's you. If you win everything. If you lose, you lose everything. And you walk away a disaster. All in. And when you get to that position, if you ever watch those guys on TV, that's what I'm talking about. When they're playing and they're putting up the odds, this guy's going to win. Oh, wait, this guy's. And they get to that point where 2 or 3 guys have to go all in to meet the bet. You know it's going to be over. And they build it up, of course, and make it real tense and bring up the music. But sure enough, when those cards are dropped, 3 of them are going home. I mean, going home broke. And you got to ask yourself, I wonder if Jesus felt like that as he was focusing and marching toward Jerusalem. I mean, it really started back in the Garden of Gethsemane when he was praying and said, God, if there's any other way, I'm open for options. And of course, the Lord basically gave him the old, sorry, bud, there's no other way. You're either all in or you're not. And Jesus prayed, of course, that drops of blood pouring off his head. And he said, your will, Father, not mine. At that moment, Jesus, our Christ, was all in, not for his own sake, but for the sake of those men and women following him who didn't even understand. For the sake of the men and women in this church who many times we don't even understand what was involved. So that week, that last what we call Holy Week, starting tomorrow, and then Tuesday and Wednesday and Monday, Thursday, and we call it Good Friday when he was actually murdered. Wasn't a whole lot of celebrations going on. And weighing on the back of Jesus' mind is always, 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 there's no turning back now. Either you're committed to this humanity or you are not. And Jesus shoved all his chips in and said, your will, Father, not mine. Well, I've preached over 40 years of ministry now about everything possible to say about the triumphant entry. So I tried to look for a new perspective. Very difficult to do after so many years. Today, I want to look at, and I want us to focus, as they were approaching the city, they threw their garments on the road They cut palm branches and they waved them, saying, "Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven, glory in the highest." And the Pharisees, the priests, yelled at Jesus and they said, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples and make them be silent." And Jesus answered and said, "I tell you, if all of these became silent, the stones themselves would cry out." I want to focus today on what would the stones cry out if they could. We're going to talk about this triumphant entry into Jerusalem. First, I want you to stand up one final time.